Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here for my Friday reads as usual, and I'm going to talk about two works by Samuel Beckett. Now, I've come to the conclusion that Samuel Beckett is not for me. I've read two of his plays and one of his novels now, and he is the sort of author whose works just irritate me a little bit. I am the sort of reader who likes to understand what's going on, and I can only enjoy a work for so long without knowing exactly what's happening. I don't like this meandering, somewhat ambiguous writing style that Samuel Beckett has. And it's interesting because this was also my problem with Duck's Newburyport when I read it. At a certain point with Duck's Newburyport, I got tired of this, I don't know how to describe it, just the way the novel was framed and the way that Beckett is framing his works. You are seeing a certain perspective and he's not providing you with all the information. You really have to take the work scene by scene by scene, and you have no idea where you're going. Now, I've discovered that when I read a book, I like to have some idea of where we're going, some idea of where we are, some idea of who our character is. But Beckett likes to throw us into semi-absurd scenes, often with characters who either don't know their own name, don't know why they're there, or are unable to make a decision about anything. And, I get it. It's some philosophical, existentialist thing going on, whatever. Or at least that's what the previous owner of this book thought. Throughout my copy of Waiting for Godot, there are notes where the previous reader is referencing Sartre, and where they are musing about existentialism, which, okay, sure, fine. But it's just not my thing. This weird, absurdist scene is not something that I enjoy. I see what's happening. I see that there's a little bit of humor in these scenes, but I find them a bit of a depressing drudge to get through. So Malloy. I thought I knew who Malloy was. I assumed that Malloy was the character in the first half of this novel. We meet this man who, his age is also ambiguous. At first you think he's young, and then you discover he might be old. You think he's Malloy because, that's the name, and this particular character can't remember his own name. He doesn't know where he is, and he doesn't know where he lives. All he knows is he's trying to get to his mother. You think at first, or at least I thought, that this must be Malloy. And then abruptly, midway through the novel, we forget all about this first character. And we have a second character who is leaving his home to go on a journey with his teenage son. And they are going in search of Malloy, I think. But it's hard to tell. And you don't know why they're going, but someone has told him to go, and he's got in his head that they have to go, and they have to sneak out in the night and not be seen by anyone. And so you have these two characters traveling who it's unclear whether they converge or not in the book. They don't appear to do so because the second character ends up abandoning his quest. But these two characters with unclear motives who are wandering about slightly out of their mind. So that is the plot of Malloy. And sure, it was a book. I could see why people would really enjoy that, but I didn't. I like to know who my characters are. I like to know that they're, in their right minds, that they know what they're doing. Just not for me. And I didn't get much more out of Waiting for Godot either, because once again, we have one of these weird plots where people don't really know who they are, or where they're going, or who the other people are, and they're all just sitting around not really doing much of anything. So we have Vladimir and Estragon, and they appear to be two homeless men who are waiting by what may or may not be a willow tree, and they are waiting for Godot to arrive. Whether he's coming or not, what day it is, whether they've met before, whether they were there the night before or not, is unclear. And they meet a couple of other characters. Let me just remember this guy's name. Pozo and Lucky. Pozo and Lucky come along and they have this weird interaction. Lucky won't put down the bags. Pozo is, in some sense, the master of Lucky, and they are traveling together. This kid runs up and says, Godot can't come tonight. Maybe he'll come tomorrow. And so they hang there. They're thinking about hanging themselves in the tree, but they don't have a rope. And then they go ahead and do the same thing the next night, the next day, the next night. But for whatever reason, even though it's all the same characters, they don't seem to recognize each other. And it's just not my cup of tea. I don't even know what you would call this type of writing, this style. It's definitely not the sort of thing that I like. I like things that are, I guess, realistic and literal, and perhaps a little more on the flowery side of things. I like intricate sentences rather than sharp, ambiguous sentences. And I don't even know in what sense I'm using the term ambiguous, because the writing isn't ambiguous. You know what is being said in the sentence, but the plot is ambiguous. The meaning is ambiguous. I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. So I had a go at Samuel Beckett. I don't think I'm going to continue on here. I may leave 3 novels on my shelf with the intention of perhaps returning and trying the second one here, Malone Dies, in the future, but I don't know if I ever will. This is not a rabbit hole that I enjoyed going down, and so I'm going to leave it alone and go back to my Trollop and my other books that I mentioned in my last Friday reads. And this weekend I actually am going to do some significant reading. I said that last weekend, and then I didn't. I ended up watching a bunch of Netflix and going to a movie. On a side note, I saw Parasite at the theater, and that was a fantastic film, something I would highly recommend. So I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you again soon in another video.